This podcast is sponsored by Talkspace. You know when you're really stressed or not feeling so great about your life or about yourself? Talking to someone who understands can really help. But who is that person? How do you find them? Where do you even start? Talkspace. Talkspace makes it easy to get the support you need. With Talkspace, you can go online, answer a few questions about your preferences, and be matched with a therapist. And because you'll meet your therapist online, you don't have to take time off work or arrange childcare. You'll meet on your schedule, wherever you feel most at ease. If you're depressed, stressed, struggling with a relationship, or if you want some counseling for you and your partner, or just need a little extra one-on-one support, Talkspace is here for you. Plus, Talkspace works with most major insurers, and most insured members have a $0 copay. No insurance? No problem. Now get $80 off of your first month with promo code SPACE80 when you go to Talkspace.com. Match with a licensed therapist today at Talkspace.com. Save $80 with code SPACE80 at Talkspace.com.
What makes a great pair of glasses? At Warby Parker, it's all the invisible extras without the extra cost. Their designer quality frames start at $95, including prescription lenses, plus scratch-resistant, smudge-resistant, and anti-reflective coatings, and UV protection, and free adjustments for life. To find your next pair of glasses, sunglasses, or contact lenses, or to find the Warby Parker store nearest you, head over to warbyparker.com. That's warbyparker.com.
You're listening to the Health Courage Collective podcast, episode 29, Literal Brainwashing. Welcome to the Health Courage Collective podcast, the show for women who are too busy to slog through hours of generalized, inapplicable, and often contradictory health information, but too smart to ignore that a few minutes of focused attention now can prevent years of suffering in the future. I'm your host, Christina Hackett, a pharmacist who doesn't want you to live on prescriptions, a certified coach specifically trained to maximize your potential, and a compulsive learner obsessed with preventative, cutting-edge, holistic, and integrative medicine. I'm on a mission to increase your physical and mental resilience so you can fearlessly look forward to your next 40-plus limitless years. Your time is now. Let's go. Hello and welcome back. It's so great to be here with you today. How has your non-exercise movement been going? Have you tried to get up every 20 to 30 minutes so your body doesn't start to experience the negative effects of zero gravity? Have you tried to load your body and unload your brain? That's like you. It's not a normal thing to do, and the benefits are huge. Today, we're going to talk about something super cool. Did you know that you can literally wash your brain every night? How great is that? While you sleep, you can become a sleeper agent who might be activated at any minute to become a renegade assassin. Here's how. First, do something to get noticed by a CIA scientific researcher with questionable morals. Then, show a propensity for solving puzzles quickly or appearing insane enough to be locked in a mental institution, but actually being more aware of reality than the general population. Then, wait a minute, that's metaphorical brainwashing. We're talking about literal brainwashing. No MK Ultra LSD experiments required. Whew. And you don't have to have a father who might be evil, but might be good, but might not even be your real dad, and who definitely programmed you as a kindergartner to assemble and disassemble a handgun in 17 seconds so that someday you could work at SD6 and use the prophecies of Milo Rambaldi to take down K-Directorate. Double gold star if you know that TV show reference. One of my very favorite TV shows of all time. I love watching Jennifer Garner kick butt. It does get pretty strange in the final couple of seasons, though. Okay, back to your brain. You know it's super precious. You may or may not know that while some medical people call your gut, including its microbiome, your second brain, the ones who know the most about your gut health call it your first brain, and the thing in your skull, your second brain. That's a discussion for another day, and really fascinating and exciting in terms of therapeutic potential. But for today, we're going to talk about your actual brain, the thing inside your skull. You want it operating at full power your entire life. I'm talking past age 100 here. It's fully possible. Many, and I'd probably say most, neurological diseases are a result of neuroinflammation. This is everything from so-called senior moments to dementia, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, even multiple sclerosis. Of course, it's not simple, and the struggle with these conditions is intense and often devastating. But there is hope. A 2018 study of people aged 14 through 79 showed that the 79-year-olds had the same amount of raw materials needed to create new brain cells or neurons as the 14-year-olds. We don't have to lose our ability to learn and remember as we get older. Our neurons are protected by microglial cells. Chronic inflammation caused by bad things going on in your other brain, your gut, causes glial cells to go to extremes to protect the neurons from the carnage of inflammation. The glial cells prune away the neurons' dendritic structures to keep them safe from inflammation. But once that happens over and over and over, your neurons are left with no way to communicate with other neurons, and you start to get tip-of-the-tongue moments followed by brain fog and impaired cognition. Or in some cases, that neuron is so pruned that it can neither communicate nor receive nourishment, and so it dies. A dead neuron surrounded by glial cells that pruned it back in an overzealous attempt to protect it from gut-caused inflammation is called a Lewy body, the classic structure of Parkinson's disease. As always, there's more of a connection to gut health in Parkinson's than just that. It's super great. You know that the main evil structure that's talked about with Alzheimer's is amyloid plaques. Many billions of dollars have been spent trying to develop anti-amyloid drugs that can treat Alzheimer's. The only problem is that they don't work. Amyloid production is not initiated in the brain. There, you guessed it, first made in the gut. They are shed from unfriendly gut bacteria and travel to the brain if the gut wall barrier is vulnerable, and then they deposit in the brain where they encourage more amyloid proteins to be made to keep them company. If you have a healthy gut microbiome population and a healthy gut wall barrier, you don't get amyloid deposits. Even if you do have some amyloids travel there, it's not the end of the story for your brain. There are people with scans who show some amyloid protein deposits who don't have cognitive impairment. Why not? It's kind of like what you've heard about all of us having some cancer cells in our bodies. As long as they're not allowed to set up shop and keep replicating, everything's fine. Do you remember from a couple of weeks ago that a healthy lymphatic system is important for cancer prevention? That lymphatic fluid contains a lot of immune cells that destroy cancer cells, and it washes throughout our body and clears out the gunk and junk that accumulate as our cells grow and die and shed bits and pieces. We need that sweeping out to keep everything running cleanly. The lymphatic system was talked about as early as 400 BC by Hippocrates, and at some point after the late 1800s, when the blood-brain barrier was discovered, it was realized that the lymphatic system doesn't cross the blood-brain barrier. This was all we knew for a long time. Then, in August of 2012, 11 years after Alias started airing on TV, which doesn't seem like that long ago, scientists proved the discovery of a new system, the glymphatic system. Like all discoveries, they built upon the scientific postulations of their predecessors, but it's super cool, and we haven't even known about it for 10 years yet. So, why do you care? Because it's a big deal. So the glymphatic system was named after the lymphatic system and the glial cells in your brain. Remember those little guys that protect neurons? Sometimes too enthusiastically. The glymphatic system contains no lymphatic fluid. It's a system of fluid that washes around your brain cells, or neurons, to clear out all the gunk and junk that accumulate as part of the process of doing the business of living. These are bits and pieces of proteins, cellular debris, amyloid proteins, inflammatory cytokines, and other things floating around in between your brain cells. When this junk builds up, things don't work well. If some of the junk is amyloid proteins, they start to set up a home base and create more amyloid proteins, which can eventually lead to Alzheimer's disease. We don't know yet for sure about cancer cells setting up shop between brain cells, but I think you can see why you want your glymphatic system working really well. We need our brains to be squeaky clean so that we can remain mentally sharp our whole lives. The fluid that washes around in the glymphatic system is cerebrospinal fluid. Cerebrospinal fluid has been known for a long time to cushion the brain and spinal cord from injury and deliver nutrients. But now we know that it's also the miracle cleaning fluid that washes through your brain to keep it working at its best. Imagine the infomercial we could make for that. Eco-friendly, all-natural, sustainably sourced, organic cleaning fluid guaranteed to improve your life and reduce your risk of neurodegenerative disorders like dementia. And it's free. You just need to know how to optimize your wash cycle for the best results. Most of us at this point in our lives are probably still getting at least the economy wash. This is keeping us from deteriorating right now. But if we want to still be this sharp 50 years from now, we need to upgrade to the deluxe wash now. We want the undercarriage rocker panel wash, heated pre-soak, and spot-free rinse now, so that the dead bugs, corrosive salts, and tar spatters that accumulate on our journey through life don't continue to build up and become permanent fixtures. Your glymphatic system works a tiny bit all the time, but when it really does its magic is while you're sleeping. And here's what I think is the most astonishingly amazing thing about the glymphatic system. When it's glymphatic time, your brain cells shrink back by up to 60% to make lots of room for that cerebrospinal fluid to wash around and get in all the nooks and crannies. How great is that? I have a bit of an overactive imagination, but I love imagining structures shrinking back by 60% to make room for the cleaning crew to do a thorough job. It's pretty much fabulous. But here's the catch. Actually, before we get to that, a little more about when the glymphatic system goes to work. The glymphatic system does most of its work during N3 stage slow wave sleep. The N stands for non-rapid eye movement stage of sleep. This non-rapid eye movement slow wave sleep occurs mainly in the first half of sleep, with most REM being in the second half of the night. This is important because you also need a lot of blood flow to your brain to be able to run a deluxe wash cycle. One where your neurons have shrunken back to allow the glymphatic fluid to work its magic. When the system is working optimally with enough blood flow and those presto changeo regressed neurons, it's 20 times more efficient than at other times. Not 20%, 20 times. That's a much better wash result. That'd be more like you drove into the car wash and came out the other side with a brand new car. So back to the catch. In order to get this magnificent cleaning every night, you not only have to get a good night's sleep, like go to bed on time, don't jack up your emotions with TV drama or news, don't destroy your ability to produce melatonin with blue light, and have a comfortable, dark, and optimally cool room. All that sleep stuff is important, but you also need to have enough blood available to flow to your brain when it's in N3 slow wave sleep time. How do you do that? You can't have all your blood busy running your digestive tract. That means not eating before bed. The optimal window is 4 hours before you go to sleep. This is because that glymphatic cycle runs during the first half of your sleep time. How do you feel about that 4-hour curfew? If it's no big deal to you, great. Keep that thought. For others of us, it might seem a bit difficult, but that's just an opinion, not a fact, so we can go to work on that. I hope to successfully brainwash you into believing that it's in fact the best thing to do. What time do you usually go to bed? Is that the best time for you to go to bed, or do you need to change your answer? Okay, now what is 4 hours before that? For me, it's about 6:15. That's a hard one. We usually start dinner at about 6:30 on a good day, and a lot later on days that I work at the pharmacy. Thursdays, I don't get home from work till 9:15 p.m. or so, and I'm hungry then. So I get it. It's not always easy, but it's so worth it. I'm for sure not perfect, but just by way of example, to try to get your ideas flowing, I plan to push my family's dinner time to starting at 6 o'clock or 6:15 instead of 6:30. That shouldn't be too hard. Then I can totally just fast on Thursday nights when I don't get home from work till after 9. That's really not a big deal, and I've been contemplating doing it anyway, so I'm going to go ahead and just do it. Tuesdays will be more difficult, but for now, I'll settle for making a few minor tweaks to start with. There's some evidence to suggest that fasting one night per week can make up for eating a little bit too late on one other night of the week. In any case, it's definitely better than eating too late on 2 nights of the week. My Optimize coach, Brian Johnson, talked about thinking the 4-hour rule was unreasonable. He goes to bed at 7 o'clock, which is out there to me, but again, just an opinion. Anyway, that means he can't eat after 3 o'clock p.m. Even though it seemed like a stretch to him, he did it, and his sleep data from his Oura Ring showed a 10% decrease in resting heart rate and a 30% increase in heart rate variability. Pretty impressive stuff. I'll keep track of my last food consumption and my sleep scores and see if I notice the same things. How about you? What was your calculated eating curfew time? How far off are you from that? How might you optimize that time, even by just a little bit? Can you eat 30 minutes earlier? Any improvement is better than nothing. Of course, it goes without saying that there cannot be midnight snacking going on. If that's a habit of yours, just start there. Easy win. Cut those snacks out as a gift to your future brain. Eat enough at dinner time that you're not hungry again before you go to bed. Optimizing your glymphatic flow is a good thing to do. Optimizing your glymphatic flow is a good thing to do. Optimizing your glymphatic flow is a good thing to do. These are not the droids you're looking for. Is it working? Are you getting metaphorically brainwashed about getting literally brainwashed? I hope so. Dr. Stephen Gundry tells us that the glymphatic washing system is, quote, probably the single most overlooked and misunderstood aspects of neurodegenerative diseases, end quote. You do not want to overlook this. You do not want to overlook this. You do. Okay, I'll stop. I found a really interesting article about the glymphatic system in the Journal of Brain Sciences. I'll put a link in the show notes in case you're interested. They list a few more things that improve glymphatic flow, including consuming more omega-3 fatty acids, intermittent fasting, that's not really different than what we've been talking about, sleeping on your right side, not consuming large amounts of alcohol, exercising regularly, and reducing chronic stress. Not surprisingly, all of these things improve the glymphatic cleaning cycle. The sleeping on the right side thing is interesting. I'm not sure how big of a difference it makes. It says it's to do with gravity restricting venous drainage of the carotid vein, but I was like, oh no, I usually sleep on my left side. But the article also says that self-reported sleep positions are usually false, so only worry about your sleeping position if it's been observed during a sleep study. I'm still like, yeah, pretty sure I sleep on my left side. Anyway, sleeping on your back is associated with increased risk of Alzheimer's, as is low omega-3 intake and excess alcohol consumption and chronic stress. Incidentally, if you're specifically interested in Alzheimer's disease, you should for sure check out Dr. Dale Bredesen and his book, The End of Alzheimer's. He's figured out how to reverse it, like for real, and it doesn't even involve Aricept or Exelon or Razodine. Of course, it's much, much easier to prevent it than to catch it after it's started, but there are things that can be done, which is super fantastic. And most people, including doctors, don't know that, but they should. What do you think about your glymphatic system? Pretty great, right? A deep cleaning of your brain every night? Yes, please. I invite you to think about what you can do to optimize your nightly brainwashing by not eating before you go to bed. By 4 hours if possible. If you make some tweaks to your routine, remember to celebrate yourself every time. Yes, that's like you, to give your future self the gift of a healthy, quick-witted brain by making a few adjustments now. Little things matter. Doing what you told yourself you would do matters. You've got this. Next week, we're going to talk about mistake learner's high. Until then, don't be normal. Thank you so much for tuning into the Health Courage Collective podcast. I am truly honored that you have paid me the enormous compliment of your time and attention. I would be so grateful if you would share this podcast with someone you know and subscribe so you never miss an episode. This podcast is for entertainment and information purposes only. Statements and views on this podcast are not medical advice. This podcast, including Christina Hackett and producers, disclaim responsibility for any possible adverse events by use of information contained herein. If you think you have a medical problem, consult a licensed physician.